depending on where you are. This is Carrie Sinclair, and I hope you are all well and welcome to the West Africa Com delegation for SheTrades. If you can hear me, please just let me know in the chat that you can hear me and my sound is okay. Okay, thank you guys. So today we're going to move through a series of slides that explain how to create a strong pitch presentation. And many of you already have strong pitch decks, so this might be a refresher course for you. Please do pay attention, and if you have good questions, because if you already have a strong deck, especially, you might have some really good questions for the rest of the group, so please do feel free to ask them after the presentation or drop them in the chat, and myself, Tokes, or Edison will respond. So I'll be walking us through the contents and the technical aspects of a pitch presentation, and then Tokes will come in. Tokes Fayomi of Nigeria will come in, and she'll discuss a bit more about the formatting and stylistic elements that make a powerful presentation. All right, so first off, right, what is a pitch? It is a story, right? It's your opportunity to become a storyteller and tell a great story about your business, right? There are some key elements, right, and tips for telling a good story, right? So we all know good storytellers and we all know bad storytellers. Good storytellers tend to be very clear and vivid in their imagery and how they present the story to you, right? Using concise language and good detail, right? A good storyteller knows how to get their point across without speaking on and on and on, right? So less is definitely more, especially on a slide. And then when you're speaking, using concise, clear detail to explain what you're presenting on a slide, right? And then again, every good story has a strong character, right? The protagonist or the individual around whom the story is centered. So creating a good customer persona, right, or an avatar will help your audience attach themselves to your story via this persona, right? And that persona is your customer profile, right? So this is the profile of your target audience or your customer, right? Target customer. And again, a story is about taking an audience on a journey, right? And taking them through the different elements of that story, right? From the beginning to the peak and then to its closure, right? The arc of the story. And always at the end of the story, there's usually some kind of moral or lesson, right? Some conclusion, right? And when you're pitching, when you're presenting a pitch, that's going to be your ask, right? What you are asking the audience to do. It's a call to action. Often this is when you're presenting to investors, this is often based around asking for funding. But please understand that not every pitch presentation or even investor pitch results in an ask for money, right? There's lots of ways to call your audience to action. Money is just one of them. Okay. The story begins, right, with your vision, right? And this is essentially what your elevator pitch comes from, right? It's a simple statement. It's compelling. It captures attention. It's meant to deliver enough of a message and enough of your idea that your audience asks for more information, right? So this will only take maybe 30 seconds for you to explain. Again, human beings, we have very short time spans these days, and on average, you have 30 seconds to capture and any individual or audience attention before they get distracted by something else. So using clear, concise language to explain your vision, right, up front is how you're going to capture people's attention and get them to ask more questions, right, about what you're doing, right? So that's when you have the opportunity to explain the problem that you're solving, right? Every business is created to solve a problem or deliver value to its customers, right? Usually a systems level problem, so sometimes these are big problems, right? And they inherently are important to individuals and consumers because they will affect daily life, right? Often, right? So this is your problem that you're solving is a pain point for customers, right? It's something that in some way, shape, or form needs to be solved, and it is highly valuable, right, for the consumer that you're targeting or you're using in this persona as well, right? But you have to ask, why is it valuable, right? And who is the problem being solved for? Again, this is when you have that opportunity to define the customer persona, right? You see here, we have a short customer persona or key problem statement, right? A parent with young children feels concerned about helping with reading skills, right? That's the reason, and needs to, they need to solve a problem, to ask kids questions, but is not sure what age appropriate questions are, right? So the problem here is what? Does anyone want to answer the problem in the chat? Okay. So the problem is essentially that a parent is helping their child with their reading, right? But isn't exactly sure what questions they should ask. So maybe this is when they look to a tutor or educational material, right? E-learning material, for those of us who work in tech as well. This is where you have an opportunity to solve a problem for a parent. And then once we know what the problem is, we want to know how big is the problem, right? How big is the problem holistically, right? Which is your total market. And then who are you solving the problem for, right? What portion of that total market can you even access as a company, right? And then even within that serviceable market that you could access, there's a specific profile of a consumer, right? Or maybe a couple different profiles, your target audience, your target customer. And that's who your company is going to solve the problem for, at least initially. So when you present this slide, it's very good to be highly specific, right? And to speak often in monetary terms, right? So your audience might want to know not only how big is the problem, right? And then how many people are you solving the problem for? Because assuming that you can't solve a problem for 5 million people, but maybe you can solve it for 5,000, right? Or 500,000, right? So then you want to find out where are those people, right? So again, how big is the problem that you're solving, but how many people can you solve the problem for? And who are those people, right? Again, your customer persona, and where are those people, right? So again, we're adding a bit of texture to understanding the customer, understanding the problem the customer faces, and how many people are like this customer. And then once we know who we're solving the problem for, right, and where these people are and how many people there are, right, we deliver the potential solution, right? The product or service that your company has developed, which is of course, going to be the product or service to solve this problem, right? And you want to explain what it does, right? Not necessarily what it looks like, right? In essence, you're answering the question of what is the key value, right, for your customer, right? And those of you who've worked with Business Model Canvas before are probably used to seeing something like what's on your screen below, right, which is a subset of the Business Model Canvas. It's your value proposition, right, which gives you a bit of an opportunity to deep dive into the business model, one aspect of the business model canvas. Okay, so again, if you've already worked with some of this material, I'll invite you to take it a step deeper and refine your customer, your solution, your market using some of these tools presented and already sent forward in the email previously. Again, your solution is your value proposition, right? And you've already tested it. That's how you know it works with some of your customers who you've created this persona around, right? And they've given you enough feedback that you are confident that your problem or your product or service can solve the problem for many customers just like that. Then, of course, how do you make money from this? Because at the end of the day, a business is a business because it generates revenue, it makes, and profit, specifically profit, it makes money, right? So when you get to the business model, now that we understand who is the customer, right, and how we're going to address the need of the customer, and we've already validated that solution with them or a few of them, now we have to explain, okay, well, how are we going to make money from this solution, right? How are we going to deliver that value to the customer, right? In what format, and what are the options, right? And so on the slide here, you'll see, right, the business model for this company is commission-based, right? 10% commission on each transaction. And that's showing you based on their market size, right, their specific target market size, what revenue they can expect to incur over the course of 2 to 3 years based on an average fee of $20 a night, right, for their target market, hopefully, which will include about 10 or 11 million users or customers. And so again, your business model is the vehicle through which you deliver that value to customers, right? And you deliver that value in a way that solves the problem and that makes sense for the customer, right? Be it by value or price, right? And that's how you understand which model to use, right? Which option you want to choose to deliver that value. So then once we know all of these things about the business model that we're going to use to deliver value, right? The intrinsic value for the specific customer to resolve their pain point, we need to explain how we're going to promote this, right? How are we going to explain this value to customers? So those of you who are already post-revenue and operating in the market might not necessarily need a go-to-market strategy, but rather a growth or expansion strategy, right? So you might already be in the market, you might have traction, at which point this slide will not necessarily be replaced, but we might include another slide around traction, then showing also the specific strategies, channels, and partnerships, right, that you use to get customers or get more customers, right? For a new company, it's getting into the market, getting attention, right, getting people to try your product and service so you can make it better for them, right? And that's more marketing intensive. Right? And then once you have a refined product and a refined customer base, right, you want to know and a refined price point as well, then you're going to start pushing a bit more on your sales, right? So your go-to-market strategy or your market expansion strategy will either be intensive towards marketing and promoting your business or intensive towards selling your product or service, right? I think many of you have a lot of experience with marketing, and so where a lot of folks struggle is in actually not promoting, but in actually closing the deal, right? Sales is far from easy. I think any of us who've tried to make a sale know that it's one thing to get people to listen, right, to how great your product or service is. It's another thing to ask them to reach in their wallet, right? And again, this will come back to understanding your business model and understanding your customer very, very well, so you know what exactly, what combination of price point and value will engage and then convert your customer, right? So then, now that we know all of these things about getting to the market, the value we're delivering to the market, the size of the market, right? We come to your competitive analysis, right? Your position. Now, of course, once you've explained that, you know, there's a lot of people that have the problem you're solving, right? You can assume, or we can all assume, that other people are solving this problem somehow, right? Through either formal solutions, products and services in other companies, and often through informal solutions, what they call hacks. So these informal solutions, for those of you who are operating with early stage companies in fairly new markets, there might not be too many identifiable direct competitors, right? Other companies that seem to be doing exactly the same thing or almost exactly the same thing, but rather you might be finding a lot of hacks or similar or ways that people are solving the problem that your product or service will actually compete with, because you have to convince your customer and the individual at the end of the day that your product and service is worth paying for, and it's somehow better or more efficient, more valuable than whatever they're doing to solve the problem currently. All right. So this relates to behavior, and again comes back to knowing your customer very well. So when you start to explain your competitor landscape, you want to illustrate how your solution is different, right? I said you'll often see that there are companies or individuals in the market who are doing almost the same thing, right? So that almost is key. You want to explain very clear and concisely how your product or service, how your solution is different and more valuable than the other existing solutions, right? Is it less expensive? Is it more customized? Does it have better features somehow? Does it make people's lives easier in some other way, shape, or form? Okay, so when you present a competitive analysis, you will have, now what I put up here is a 2x2 grid. This is very simple analysis. And then you might have a few competitors, right, that would be on this analysis. So when you look at it, you might want to say, okay, if we look at the top, that's going to be very expensive. And if we look at the bottom, it's going to be very cheap. If we look to the left, it's going to be very, something is going to be very few features. And then on the right, it's going to be a lot of features, right? So now we have these kind of opposites, right? And then you'll place your competitors based on your analysis of them in one or the other square, right? Your company also will fit in one or another square. It won't fit in all, right? So make sure that if you're using this matrix or another type of matrix, that you're very clear and specific about where your company is positioned relative to the other competitors, right? I've seen people put their company in every single square here. That's not exactly true, right? You want to place your company in one place, right? That shows that maybe your company has more features and it's slightly more expensive, but that's okay because your customers will be willing to pay for it, right? Or maybe your product or service is going to be very inexpensive, right? And have very few features. So be on the left down, right? And so here you're saying, well, people don't care so much, our customers don't care so much about a lot of features, but they're more concerned about the price of it. Okay, so you want to show this on the grid. How your product or service competes and is different and more valuable relative to the other solutions in the market. All right. So now that we've explained to the audience, you know, who we're solving the problem for, why it's such an important problem to solve, and for how many people, right? This is a problem that a lot of people face, right? And we're going to deliver to them some key value, right? That, and through some model, right, that makes sense to them, okay? and you've explained also, how you're going to speak to customers, and you've explained also who else is in that market with you, right? Your competitors. Also maybe, the companies that are not competing directly with you, but might be complementing you, right? And that's another presentation. But once we've done all that, now for an investor in particular, right, you're going to want to explain how long this is going to take. How long is it going to take you as a company to achieve the growth, right, in users or revenue that is significant, right, especially for an investor, right? So this is essentially your roadmap to market, and to capturing your target market, right? And it's a timeline of key business and product development milestones, right? Simple questions that you answer. Why are you doing it? What are you going to do next? And what's the actual plan to do it? These are very specific questions, and they deserve very specific answers. Again, clear and concise answers, right? Explain why you're doing what you're doing right now, either in terms of product development or marketing, right, and sales, expansion or contraction. Why are you doing at this moment, and how it is important for what your next step is, right? And then how long is that going to take, right? And then ultimately, why are you doing this, and what's the plan to get there, right? So again, very detailed, kind of like you're explaining how directions to a friend or somebody who might be coming to see you, right? So then you introduce the team. This might be one of the more important slides in your deck. I think most companies probably undervalue their teams and themselves, especially early stage companies might be just forming their teams and understanding how everyone works together, okay? But for an investor in particular, or some other type of, I guess, stakeholder, not necessarily a customer themselves, the team is going to be very important, right? Because ultimately, it is the team that brings the solution to market, right? It is the team that solves the problem. It is the team that attracts customers, right? And delivers on value, right? So you can have a great idea and a really great problem to solve and a really great strategy, but ultimately, if you don't have the right people, you won't be able to execute on that strategy. So that's why it's crucial to explain well your team, right? How they add the value, and why is their experience interesting, right? Why is their background interesting, including who's in their network, okay? Please be aware that when you create this slide, this is not a CV, right? This is not a place to put bullet points from your CV. Anyone in your audience can go to LinkedIn, and please do make sure that you have LinkedIn pages up, can go to LinkedIn and see your actual CV. In this presentation, just like you're telling a story about your business, you're also telling a story about the individuals who are creating and executing the business, okay? So this is where you can add a little bit more fun information, right? Not just that they're an engineer, but maybe the cool project that they were an engineer on and how it relates to what you're doing right now, right? How that experience shaped them and bring them to the point where they're on this team and solving this problem for X people, all right? And then also you'll see here, choose wisely, right? Your picture should be a professional headshot, right? Make sure that it's only you in the picture, and that's fairly close up, right? You want a picture that is showing just maybe the tops of your shoulders, and don't cut off your hairline. Also make sure that your pictures are not pixelated, right? If you have a friend with a professional camera or an iPhone or a late model Android, maybe set some time with them, right? Or set some time with one of your coaches from SheTrades to take those pictures. Again, you want to make sure that the material that you show on your slides is very much clear right? And it is well curated for the audience. You don't want somebody to look at your picture and say, well, they seem like a great company, but I can't really see how they understand technology without being able to take a picture or something like this, right? And then finally, right, the moral of your story, your ask. Again, specific and direct what you need from the audience. Again, this does not have to be funding. This can be relevant to some other partnership or choice, some call to action from your customer, from a company or an individual you want to partner with, and then also asking for capital, for actual investment capital to drive, right, or give you a runway to bring your solution to market, and then also, right, to be able to execute on that roadmap, right? So this is one example of an ask slide. This is it's kind of combines the ask and the roadmap. I don't particularly like this slide right here because it is very, I don't know, I find it to be too text heavy, right? And then Tokes will talk a little bit about keeping your slides more clean and what are some of the best practices for formatting, right, and style. So now I'm going to I'll show you, I'm going to take this out of full screen because I want to show two different pitch videos, right? Also, actually, before I do that, let me show you the appendix, right? So I've included some other information. You can also do this in your presentations. After your ask and after your actual presentation, you might have information that you want to add to the appendix. Now, this isn't part of your actual presentation, but this is info that you can refer to during the Q&A, right? A Q&A is highly important, right? It is as important as the presentation itself, right? You want to, if possible, know who is going to be in your audience and do a little research on them, right? So that you can give them answers that make sense, right? Clear and concise answers, right? It can be an interesting choice to prepare a slide with FAQs, right? This, in a sense, tells the audience that you do know that there are questions that they have that you haven't answered from the presentation, and you're anticipating those questions. And just so you know, we have a few of them already with answers to share with you now, right? Be prepared to discuss your numbers. Right? This is where understanding your business model, understanding your financial will be very, very important, right? Because an investor specifically will want to know your key metrics, right? Or your milestones to achieve your goal, and also how, milestones that you'll use their money to achieve the goal. And then also the numbers, some of the numbers behind that, whether it's your market size and how you arrived at the market size, how you decided on the specific price point, right? These will come from unit economics and from your financial statements. So this is something that you might want to speak with your accounts manager, accountant to understand before the presentation, right? And then also deep dive into your competition. So I like the phrase, know what your competitor eats for breakfast, right? In a sense, it means know your competitor almost better than they know themselves, all right? Do your homework. Couple Google searches is not enough homework. Really, you want to go into understanding the psychology of the company, maybe finding out who, testimonials from people who left the company, be they, good or bad. You want to see reviews on the customers and, how many customers have switched or not. Understand if your competitors are growing or not growing, things like this, right? And then also defend your traction and defend your business model. So you want to be able to, because you'll get questions around, well, how do you know that you have this many users, right? Prove it. How do you know that this business model is going to work? Prove it. Prove it, right? You want to be able to use your numbers and use your comprehension of the material, right, to defend right? Both the numbers that you put up and the model and the traction that you present as well, right? If you have specific intellectual property, right? Explain. At this point, you might get a question around your IP, right? For an investor, it's interesting and important for them to understand how are you protecting your intellectual property, because essentially that's part of what they're investing in, right? So they want to make sure that it's secure. And lastly, again, once investors will often, and other stakeholders will often ask how you're going to use funding, if that's what you're asking for. It could be fund, cash injection. You could also be talking about grant funding in this respect, bank loans as well, right? But you want to be, just like you would be specific with a banker, you want to be very specific about how you're going to use that investment to achieve the goal, right? And deliver on your value and achieve your vision, right? So these are kind of some of the questions that you should be prepared to ask. Again, take time to prepare for this. Be a little bit of a sleuth, right? An investigator, and kind of remember your time in college and go back and study. All right. So then again, just so you see, there are some templates that I've included that you can use right here, and also have been sent in the email. There's one or two that haven't been sent. I'll follow up with. And then also understanding the differences between pitching to a potential investor and pitching your product or service to a customer, right? So these are different types of pitches that you can review, and there's much more information on that online and elsewhere, right? So this is your step-by-step guide for creating a strong pitch deck, right? And then, as I do have a bit of time, I do want to show a couple pitch presentations that might be interesting for you to review, right? Give me 1 minute while I find those. All right, so the first one is a Felly pitch presentation, right? And I chose this because of the story. Right. So this one is, I think, pretty short.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria, and if you've been counting, then you know that I'm the last one up, so yay, we made it. Thank you, and I'm really glad that you stuck around because I'm here to talk to you about the future of online shopping. And you wouldn't want to miss that, right? So, online shopping. These days,
the video's not screen. You're only sharing the PowerPoint screen.
Fast.
It's only showing the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Hope. Okay, can you now see the video?
Yes.
Okay, great.
It's super convenient, but in a lot. Hi everyone, my name is Maria, and if you've been counting, then you know that I'm the last one up, so yay, we made it. Thank you, and I'm really glad that you stuck around because I'm here to talk to you about the future of online shopping. And you wouldn't want to miss that, right? So, online shopping. These days, we all do lots of it. It's cheap, it's fast, it's super convenient, but in a lot of ways, it can actually kind of suck. Let me elaborate on that. If you know exactly what you're looking for, online shopping is great. You search, you find, you buy, it's delivered. But what if you don't know exactly what you want to buy? Well, at that point, it becomes quite a bit more complicated. Let's say you're looking for a new camera, or maybe a new pair of jeans, or how about a gift for your mom? As you can see, at this point, online shopping does become quite a bit more complicated, because all you get is this, Screens full of categories and subcategories, filters and subfilters. Really, it's like being sent into a dark warehouse with millions of products, given a flashlight and told, go figure it out. In fact, we believe that in the move from retail to e-tail, we've left a pretty crucial element of a good shopping experience behind. And that's the personal touch, the helping hand, the friendly shop owner who, when you enter the store, asks you this one really simple question: can I help you with anything? In fact, research shows that the #1 reason people still go to offline stores is for the advice and assistance that's available there. So, that's why we're building Feli. Feli is a technology platform for the future of online shopping. And to shape this future, Feli focuses on 2 things. The user is always front and center, and the user gets help when he needs help. Sounds logical, right? But as we've seen, this is nothing like the real customer experience today. So what does Feli look like? Well, here's an action shot. And here's another look at her brain. And I have her here too. As you can see, she's a pretty smart gal. In fact, with a brain like hers, Feli can help you find pretty much anything online. And one thing we've proven she can help you find is a great gift. We first started developing Feli as a personal gift assistant wrapped in an app. And the basis for the app is simple. Just like a shop owner would, Feli asks you questions, she listens to your feedback, and she learns from all that input to help you find the perfect gift for someone. And when we first launched this app, we quickly gained 10,000 users in just 2 months, as well as recognition as best new app on the App Store. Another thing we've proven Feli can do is she can talk to you directly. Together with our friends at Bot Boys, we recently launched the Feli chatbot. So now you can chat directly with Feli, and we've seen that this adds a lot to the proposition because it's really like you're talking to a person. And we're currently working on another use of our technology. Recently, Centraal Beheer, the leading insurance provider in the Netherlands, asked us to help them build the prototype for an online insurance advisor. So soon, Feli will be able to help you decide on which insurance to buy. So whether it's gifts, insurance, or anything in between, our technology can help you and provide this custom, personalized advice that you're currently missing. In fact, just yesterday, we got confirmation of another new partnership. Owl Delhaize has asked us to work with them on developing an online advisor for Ethos, which will bring the offline shop experience to online. Yeah, we're pretty excited. Which brings me to our business model. We're currently in the early stages of making revenue with our B2C channels, but what we're already doing there is we're learning a lot. These channels are a perfect experimental toolkit and a great showcase for what our technology can do. And that's helping us create great solutions in B2B, which is our focus in the immediate future for gaining revenue. And we do all of this with our team of 3. Together, we have over 20 years of experience at big Dutch corporates and as freelance entrepreneurs. Rink, he's our back-end developer. He has a lot of experience with recommendations algorithms and learning technology. Ian Albers is our front-end developer, and he can develop any app, bot, or website. And I myself am a digital strategist with a background in customer experience. But the coolest thing about our team is that we first got together at a hackathon. And that's where we built a first rudimentary version of all this technology. And ultimately, those 48 hours led to us sticking together, quitting our jobs, and here we are now. Ultimately, I believe that the future of e-commerce is intelligent, personalized, and truly interactive. I believe that instead of offering products, we should be offering help and solving problems. And our technology is making this happen. Today we're here looking for 2 things. Companies who have an interest in offering their customers a helping hand online and who believe that our technology can add value, and investors who are interested in opening up a conversation about the future we've laid out here. So if you believe in our vision and you want to know more, please come talk to us after the show, which is pretty much right now. Thank you.
All right, so that is one of the videos that I wanted to show. Sorry. All right. So I'm going to show you one other video. Right. So this is a good example of storytelling, right? And then if you also were listening, there were a couple points that are notable. Both the experience, right, that users have had, right, and showing the product, right, her brain, and then also explaining how this, who they're talking to, who their partners are, and that is also part of, right, their go-to-market strategy. And then their ask was very specific, right? Notice that their ask was not just for money, but was for either partners, right, like-minded companies and individuals, right, or investors, right? So either or, right? And then I'm going to show one other video, right, which is from I think, waste management company in the Netherlands. This is also really interesting, right? And this one is a shorter pitch, so this is more aligned with the pitch that you will all be delivering at West Africa Com in terms of timing. But here, also very much interested, right, in the Q&A session, right? So as soon as I get this up, and this is, again, a much shorter video. Uh-oh. Oh no, did they take it down?
Been taken. I mean, all these kind of
these from checks X-ray, from having seminars.
Your clients agree, but also webinars, workshops.
Sorry, just trying to find exactly where this was again.
Is a basically very different
hospital, whether it is.
So can you please open your mic and video and let's see if everything works.
Hello, hi everyone.
Hey, Michaela. Yeah, all is good. We hear you perfectly. So as you know, Michaela, we have 4 minutes to pitch. You can share your screen with the presentation, and then there's going to be followed by Q&A. Right. And I mean, the Q&A is supposed to be like 2 to 3 minutes. It can go a little bit longer, depending on the questions. And yeah, I mean, when you start speaking, our colleague Will, who's a timekeeper, is going to make sure that you're following the time. We're going to send you a private message in the chat saying there's 1 minute remaining when you have 1 minute to go. And I will actually have to stop you after 4 minutes. So the show is yours.
Perfect. Hi everyone again. I'm Michaela Druckmann, founder and CEO of Grey Parrot, and connecting from London today. The world has a massive waste crisis. So today we produce more than 2 billion tons of solid waste per year. And unfortunately, 60% of that is going to uncontrolled landfill and open dumps. And less than 14% is actually recycled. And this is causing major ecological and environmental impact. Regulators, brands, consumers are all demanding more circular products, more circular systems, and bigger transparency to be able to increase that. And this is why at Grey Parrot, we provide waste recognition software to monitor, audit, and sort waste at scale. And we're also on a mission to digitize waste to be able to increase transparency and automation. And really our goal is to empower waste managers with better data analytics. When we look at the supply chain of waste, there are problems all along the chain, from high contamination, lack of data, lack of too much manual work. And this is why we're helping with AI and computer vision to help solve some of these problems, from separation, transfer, all the way to sorting, to have a fully digitized system. Our main target customers are in the waste management industry, and specifically material recovery facilities that are separating the waste. And we are addressing a 6.5 billion market as a total of addressable size within the $530 billion waste management industry. Our first solution and product is an automated waste monitoring system composed of 3 elements that allows to analyze large flows of waste. So first, a camera system that's reliable and portable, AI vision systems that can recognize different materials using the most advanced techniques in AI, deep learning that was mentioned before, and export that in real time to have insights and analytics. And this is all provided as a software solution that's able to analyze 100% of waste flows. This is an example here of a project we're doing with the largest recycler in South Korea. This is a plastics line, and as you can see, our system is identifying what is called impurities or impure systems, which means that those things will not enable recycling. So being able to identify those will increase the chances of recycling. Here, this is another project we're running with a commercial waste manager in the UK, analyzing residue, which goes into landfill, and being able to identify when valuable materials like paper peaks of paper are going into landfill, and being able to avoid that. And the same thing can be replicated here. This is a customer who is a large airline as well, from diversion to landfill. So as you can see, there's multiple impact areas of our technology. And really the main thing is here that we're trying to avoid having valuable materials, being plastics or others, going into landfill or incineration instead of recycling. We're mitigating risk, and we're also giving a very powerful tool for regulators to have a better say in waste transition. And the same things can be transitioned to other more innovative systems like here. In terms of positioning, we are very focused on providing software that can be scaled across use cases with low capital outlay, and also opening partnerships with other players in the industry. Our team combines a very strong commercial and technical skill set. We've built some of the most advanced computer vision systems in the world for large enterprise customers, and now we want to dedicate our expertise to have social impact. We're supported by great ecosystem players in the tech and waste ecosystem. And in just 1 year, we established an MVP, we rolled out our first customers, started our first commercial pilots, and also now raising our first seed round. So this is a very exciting time to change and shift the waste management industry. So if you're interested, please contact us, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. They've been great. Thank you very much. Great presentation. I think now it's back to our judges and mentors. If they have some questions, you can enable your video and mics as well, so that it's more of an interactive discussion. And please, let's start with the Q&A.
I have a question. Are you? I didn't get a sense of revenue. Are you pre-revenue? Are you have some kind of profitability timeline within this year or next year?
Yeah, so we started the company about a year ago. So we're starting to have our first revenue coming in now from pilot projects. So early stage revenue. And our goal is to reach recurring revenues in the next 12 months.
Actually, following up on Stephen's question, it's exactly the question I had in mind as well. Thank you, Michaela. Great presentation. Definitely a much needed problem to solve. We all know how much plastic we have in the world. So thank you for doing that. I was wondering, so how do you plan to monetize this? Will you be selling the machines to corporates, or what is the idea behind it?
Yeah, so the primary
So I'm going to stop there because I want to leave time for Tokes to speak as well on formatting and style, right? But please do take a moment to review those pitches again. They are in the notes section of the slides that you will receive after this training, right? And then, if all is well, I will hand over to Tokes to discuss more about style and formatting. Topes, are you there?
Yes, hi Carrie. Hi everyone. Let me share my screen. All right, can everybody see the screen? Just one or two responses would be fine.
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
can see it.
Great, thank you. All right, so I'm going to take you through some PowerPoint tips and mostly focused on the styling, colors, fonts, and just the overall feel of your presentation. But first, let's look at this homepage, this first screen, and notice the colors, the logos. You can see that there are lots of colors in the line under SheTrades, and this was taken directly from the website so that it's in line with the logos and the organization colors. You'll notice that even though there's a whole array of colors underneath the SheTrades logo, I only picked 2 or 3. We don't want a case where you're using all the colors in your logo and it starts to look a little bit like a circus and a little bit clownish. Here are the few points we're going to go over. And like I said, we're going to focus on the overall feel. So you want it to be reflective of your brand. You want it to be reflective of your colors, your logo, your style, the style of your business. And we're going to look at the design. I'll also show you a couple good examples and bad examples as we go along. But I want you to focus on how clean it is. Because if it's simple and clear, and Carrie said something similar, it allows the message to be easily followed and understood. And you should have a less is more mentality in general. Now you'll notice first, in terms of style, my titles here, I kept it all sentence case, where only the first word colors is capitalized. This is just a personal choice. And this is something that you should think about. Most of these design tips are guidelines. There is no hard and fast rule. If, for instance, you're a playful brand, you can use the so-called ugly, unprofessional font at the bottom, if that's the type of brand you have, if that's consistent with your logo, if that's consistent with your company. These things are your choices. These are style choices are yours. You can decide how you want to do it, but make sure you're consistent. So you'll see even with my title, it's going to be consistent like that throughout. I'm not going to capitalize some words and leave some other words not capitalized. I'm not going to change my font halfway through. I'm not going to start using blue font instead of red. Keep it consistent as you go through. Let's look again at this homepage. You can see I use serif, and serif is the little clips at the end of each letter. For instance, here, if you can see that. So because the logo has serif on it, I put my own name and the date also in similar font so that it's all one clear, clean picture versus having too many things happening. In fact, this blue you'll see in the other slides, for instance, here, I didn't use that blue in the background. It's becoming a little too much. It's here only because, as I said, I grabbed it from the website directly. There's no need to add any more colors in a page like this. This is an example of a terrible home screen or home slide. You can see there are 5 different fonts now. My name is in blue, the date is in yellow. You can't even see the yellow on the light blue. Those little things make a big difference because then I'm distracted as the audience member. I'm looking around, I'm concerned that I can't see, maybe I'm missing information. I'm not focusing on what you're saying anymore. Moving on to images. So this is one key point, tell and show. So as you're talking, you should be saying a lot of the key pieces of information and your slides should be representing that information in pictures or charts or figures, as long as it's relevant to what you're saying. So people are listening to you, but they're not listening to the same exact thing that's on the slide. You want to avoid too much text and focus more on images, charts, and things like this. For example, here's Q1 sales. Besides the fact that there is no consistency in the way that each bullet point is, some have exclamation points, some start with let's go for April instead of just starting with the month. There's no consistency here. Plus, it's just a bunch of text. Instead, you can have a simple chart where the chart just has the numbers. It's easy for me to see as audience, okay, April, we're doing really well. 500 is double, February is 250. But if I look here, 250, 500, it's harder for me to read and assess the information and see where we're going, especially when you're talking about numbers. Charts are better, graphs are better. In terms of images, this was the first picture I found when I was looking at solar and, you know, this kind of image. When I searched for something like this, it was really small. I stretched it out. You can see that it's not very clear. You should have that in mind. Keep in mind that it's going to be full screen. And for some people, it could even be on a presentation, a big presentation, like on a wall or something like this, versus something tiny on your computer. So make sure you test it out on full screen. This is a better example, right? The quality is high quality. I can see clearly, even on the biggest screen, it's going to look fine. You can test this out on your own computers before you submit your pitches. High quality photos make a difference, because then I'm not thinking, okay, I can't see this guy's face. I'm not sure what he's holding. Is he smiling? You know, and it also just looks unprofessional. It shows me that you didn't put in time and effort into this. Spelling and grammar, and this is one of my my own little, I guess, frustrations when I see spelling issues, because there's so many tools. There's spell check that you can use on PowerPoint. You have me, you have Carrie, and for those in Bangladesh, you have Tanvir to help you with things like this as well. But you'll see each line has a problem. There's a mix of consistency issues here and grammar issues and spelling. And I'll give you a second to see if you can find them before I tell you where all the issues are. And if anybody wants to put on chat what they think the problem is or where they think a problem is, I'll allow you to do that. I can wait a few seconds for that. Okay, so I'm going to go through the line a little bit. So pictures, graphics, charting, and figures. Here is an issue of consistency, not necessarily grammar. This is me being super specific. But if you're going to have a list of things and it's pictures, graphics, figures, why is charting and not charts, right? These are small things, but it makes a difference in professionalism. If I read something like this, I notice things like that. And people who are investors, maybe they don't always notice these kind of things, but it shows that you put in the effort to make sure everything was lined up. Yes, Ruth has just said relevant. Correct. Relevant is spelled incorrectly. So that's correct. Spelling on the second line, correct. Then high quality of images. This is more of a grammar issue. High quality of images could be fine, but in terms of how it flows with the rest of the slide, instead it should say high quality images. You don't need the of there. You often find that good grammar and being concise are actually related. A lot of times when you use too many words, you're probably starting to have a grammatical issue. Examples, which is before and after. This is grammatically incorrect. Instead, before and after examples. Keep it small, short, concise, and oftentimes you'll probably be better off than when you write a lot of information on there. Now, this next tip I learned from my colleague just last week. Although I normally keep it within 6x6, I didn't know there was an actual rule for this. So here's a 6x6 rule. It's easy to remember. And it just means 6 words per line and 6 lines per screen. So you're not overcrowding your slide. Now, for something like this, where you only have 2 lines and it's this short, I would also add an image on the side just to balance the slide so that it's not so empty. And if you have something that's related to whatever it is that you write there, put an image there, put a graph or picture, put something on the side to help balance it out. And here is a bad example of a slide and where the 6x6 rule is broken, it's violated. You can see it's crowded, and oftentimes when it's crowded, that means your text is smaller. That means that it's hard for me as an audience member to look through and see what are the actual important points here. And I start to rush to read everything on the screen because I think that you're going to move on and I wouldn't have seen everything. So you don't want to squeeze this much information on a slide. It's better you put less and you say more, or you have a second slide that has half the information and split it into 2. I've already talked a little bit about consistency. Attention to detail, I've also kind of touched on a little bit, but you see each line here has some kind of problem where there is an issue with consistency or attention to detail. I'll give you a few seconds to look at it and see if you can find it on your own. And then I'll highlight it for you. Okay, so we'll start with the bullet points. Halfway through, the bullet points change. And yes, this is a little bit dramatic or a little bit exaggerated, but I've actually seen these types of things happen. where they just didn't notice that maybe one was gray and the next one was red, or one was a bullet point, the next one was an arrow. Then you see consistency, the word consistency is 1 or 2 spaces after spelling. It's not aligned. And a lot of these tools are in PowerPoint. If you go to alignment, it can help you align it, help you align the images to the center, help you align things that are even images that are horizontal or vertical. Yes, Diana, thank you for that. Yes, the bullet points are not aligned. Then you also see that spelling and grammar has a period at the end, but the others don't have a period. Now, this is a personal choice. If you want your sentences to all have periods, let them all have periods. If they're not going to have periods, don't put periods. I don't put periods on mine, even if it's a full sentence. Just make sure those things are consistent, not just within a slide, but across all slides. And imagery, you can see it's capitalized, whereas everything else is not capitalized. And then the last sentence, before and after examples, each word is capitalized, whereas the other ones, only the first word is capitalized. All these little things matter. And for anybody who's looking at, okay, I want to invest money in your company, they could be looking at all these tiny little details. You may think, oh, it's not that important, but people will judge you for any little thing because it usually kind of reflects on your personality. It reflects on maybe your leadership style. It reflects on how you run your business. Do you pay attention to detail when you're creating software? Do you pay attention to detail when you're taking in the client information? Are you concerned about security? All these little things, people find ways to link them to other characteristics of you as a leader, CEO, and your company. So take these things seriously. So next is my major example here. This is a real slide from one of the women-owned beneficiaries. So one of your colleagues sent this in as their presentation. And I worked on it a little bit, but first I want you to notice things that could be wrong here. Yeah, I'll give you a few seconds to just look it over and just get some ideas on your own. Okay, so first of all, there's no color at all. It's just black and white, and the text is gray. It's not even black. So the title is black, the text is gray. There's no brand recognition at all. I have no idea who this is, what this is about. It's not giving me any kind of brand awareness. There are too many words on the screen overall and on each line. You can see that there are periods on some sentences and there are no periods on others. And if you're going to have bullet points, you don't need full sentences. You don't need to write an on-demand model is blah, 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 blah. You can say that when you're speaking, but it doesn't need to be on the slide. You can shorten everything that's on the slide. You can see there are also spelling and grammar issues. And of course, the 6x6 rule, which is a good guide, is not being applied here. So this is what I did with this slide when I sent it back to them. So this is the same, basically the same information. Here's what they sent to me. Here's what I sent back. So I try to use the color of their logo. I changed the logo name to just name, but their logo name was there and that's their logo brand and everything. I just try to add in some colors, how it works. Since they wanted it caps, I put it all caps. And I just broke it down into 3 steps. The customer orders something, the request is received, the employee fulfills the demand. Now, if you have pictures of this actually happening, that's even better. And not pictures you just snatch online, but pictures of it happening in your own company, your own business, where you can see 1, maybe a picture of somebody ordering something. And then 2, somebody within your company receiving the order, whether it's online. And then 3, an employee fulfilling the demand. So if you had images to go with that, that would even be better than these words. And you can say the words out loud during their pitch versus having it written down here for audience to read. So just wanted you to see the difference. This crammed up lots of words, no color, and then something cleaner. Now, images, like I said, would help to amplify this message, but I didn't have them, so I just put it up like this. Still decent. All right, so that's really it. So I've gone through a lot of tips. And one key factor I want to just make clear is that these design choices are your choices. Nothing is hard and fast. Nothing is concrete. Just make sure that you're thinking that it's simple, it's clean, it's easy to read and understand. And they shouldn't be doing that much reading anyway. It should be graphics, it should be images, it should be how does this work versus crammed with text. Now, this last slide is a little bit crammed with text, but only because this is where all the contact information is. So if you had a slide like this, maybe get in touch with us, or a thank you slide or something like that, maybe have a picture and still stay with the brand from the beginning to the end. So if your brand, like our brand is SheTrades, that's what I've done all through ITC, SheTrades, making sure that when they leave, they know that, okay, this was the last slide. This is the last impression. I know this was about SheTrades. Yeah. So that's it. That's everything from me. Carrie, did you want to take questions from the group for both parts?
Thanks, Topes. Thank you for, for a really strong presentation. And, you're could not be more correct about being careful of detail, and, your audience will judge. They will judge your formatting. So please take extra time to go back over it a few times after you've created your presentation, right? So yeah, we have a few minutes. We have about 14 minutes left, which is enough time to take some questions from the group.
Hi, Carrie.
Yes.
Hi, can I just quickly share an example of a company description and also ask the audience what they think is wrong? It's a very small point, but I think writing style is very important, and I just want to very quickly show this. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so can someone just identify, it's also from one of your colleagues from the most recent East Africa Com Trade Fair. Can you see what is a very small problem, but to me, stylistically, what is something that we can point out here that is could be improved? I'll just wait for 10 seconds and then I'll just review the answer. Okay, any takers? All right, so no, it's not the font style. Actually, the font is the same. There are two errors here. You can't really spot it, but it's aligned with what Tox just mentioned. We have to be very nitpicking. Oh, we don't need, this is the company description. So when you have a company description, you don't really need to use bullet points per se. This is what goes on your company profile. And so it can be text and prose in a prose form. The thing is, we do not want to, you see, this is the company name. And then there's we again. So sometimes you need to vary your, if you have a brand like, I don't know, Apple store, you can just use Apple after that. You don't have to repeat the full company name again and again. And if you decide to use British English, which here would be an S, then you do not use a Z here. So these are very small things that I want to point out. And I think throughout your slides, be it pitching or your company profile, you have to be very consistent throughout in your writing style. And I wonder, I don't know if Tox has mentioned this, but in your bullet points, when you begin your bullet points, if you use a verb, which is an action word, you designed this, you managed this, you developed. If you begin with a verb, try to follow through with the similar word form, right? You don't say, we manage this, and then your next bullet point is developing, which is a continuous tense. So try to keep things consistent so they read more easily. And that's all from my side. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Edison. Wow, such an important point. Wow. So yeah, please, when you're going to fill out these company catalogs, please let's take heed of what Edison just mentioned, because that messaging and the language that you use, it says a lot about your capacity to deliver right on your value. And I think seeing some of the information from previous from the East Africa Com participants, some of it was very difficult to understand and took, for me even, a little bit of time to try and figure out what they were talking about, right? So please, clear, concise, and well-structured or language. So just a few minutes left. We have 10 minutes left, and we'll open the floor for questions from the group. If you do have a question, please unmute yourself one at a time. Are there no questions at all from this entire presentation? It was really clear and concisely explained, and no one has a question at all. I'll give another minute or so for everyone to think about questions if they have them. And if not, we will just be sending the recording along with the presentation to you after this meeting.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Okay, hi, Kerry. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. I was wondering if you could just, that diagram on the slide that had competitive analysis and market position, if you could just explain. I didn't quite get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Patricia, is this the slide you're looking at?
Yes, please. The diagram particularly, yeah.
Okay, so the diagram, this is a 2x2 matrix, right? And as I was explaining, each line is a polar opposite, right? So if you look at the horizontal line, I intentionally did not put labels here because you will decide the labels, but on the horizontal line, you'll have one end of the spectrum, right? So maybe we're looking at price, and this will be inexpensive or least expensive, right? And then at the other side of the horizontal line, right, towards the center, that will be most expensive, okay? And then on the, right, and so that's one example. Also on the vertical line, same thing, different category, right? So maybe at the bottom of the vertical line, you'll have least amount of features, right, in your product. And then at the top of that vertical line, it's most features, right? So obviously you're just looking at polar opposites on a spectrum or a category, right? And then from there, right, you're looking based on the features and the price point of your product, right? Your company will fit into one of the squares, right? So if you're less expensive and have more features, somehow you'll be at that top, I guess, left square, right? Towards the outside. If you have a lot of features and very expensive, then it'll just be on the right side towards the center, top right, right? And then similarly on the bottom, for the bottom, right? So less features, less expensive, more features, less expensive, right? Your company will fit into one of these boxes, not all of them. All right, and your competitors similarly will also fit into one of these boxes. Does that explain things?
Yes, that helps. So for instance, am I going to have like one box, one separate diagram for my company, another diagram for my competitors so that I can represent
No,
each
so all of
category?
your, thank you, that's a great question. No, so this is one example, right? One diagram and one example that you can use depending on the number of competitors you have in your market, depending on how you want to present your information. There's a lot of different options for showing your competitive analysis, right? There's feature matrices, there's spider matrices, there's, I can't even think of them right now, but there's quite a lot, right? Go ahead and Google and you'll see a whole bunch of them pop up, right? You need to decide what is the best way to dashboard your information. Okay, so maybe this 2x2 isn't the best way, but you have to figure out which is best for your company.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Kerry. All right.
Okay, any other questions from the group? Please unmute yourself if so. Okay, someone's unmuted themselves, or maybe it's just any other questions? All right, Edison would like to go over the company profile since we do have 5 minutes left and no immediate questions. Edison, do you want to unmute again?
Hi, thank you so much, Kerry. I just want to briefly go through with you what we are expecting from the company profile and some of the things that the participants in East Africa Com had didn't really fully understand. And I already start to see a bit of mistakes when in the company catalog questionnaire that you have filled out. So this is something like how it would look like, pretty much identical. So when I ask for industry verticals, you are expected to highlight your top 3. So please do not click on all the check boxes. I think there are more than 40 options I gave you. Just pick the 3, and you do not really want to show that you are you're master of everything. I don't think anyone is. So highlight just the top 3 here. This is something a lot of you got wrong. And do not, list out everything that you think you are great at. I think you really need to focus on what is your value proposition and what your competitive advantage is. So keep things concise. And importantly, a lot of the people did not provide us with the right images. So this is an okay example, in my opinion, because we really want to show what your technical capabilities are. So you want to show that your user interface, or what you can do, what does your solution do. So this is a company that does risk management. Of course, we had the time we have presented this differently. So you want to show your website and what are some of the functionalities of the website. Make sure that when you show a website, that your website is in tip-top condition. And so if I could nitpick, I would say that if you can see my screen, that all the images should be of the same dimension. As you can see here, they are jagged and they are of different dimension. So things like this, because you have 2 weeks more, of 2 weeks actually. So these are things that you really want to refine. And of course, when you can put things on the phone, and this is very self-explanatory, this is what you see when you turn on the app. And this company uses AI in their work, so you want to show that. And if things are too small, no one really wants to zoom in and see them. So make sure they're visible. This company does, using, I think, motion sensing technology to measure body motion. So you really want to show, again, technicalities and what the products and services do. And I'll be requesting from you about at least 2 photos. You can submit up to 4 or 5 depending on your product type. So for example, this is a company that does animations and film. So I've taken screenshots of different frames of their videos. Of course, you need to choose which one is your best ones. And also, if you are a company that has had very, I would say, prominent partners, you want to include in your line in your company catalog that, and your company description, that your clients include, and then choose the top 3 clients. Of course, if you can show you have an international client, that'll be better. But it's not, if you don't have, that's totally fine. And I think that's it for the company profile. You will also have an investor profile, which we do not recommend that you share with, put it out publicly, because you do not want to reveal to your competitors your pricing or your competitive advantage. So this is an example of a investor profile. I will not show it for too long, but you will see that it's mostly very technical details, and they're very well aligned with your pitches. So that's why I want to talk about this now, because if you do your pitches very well, your pitch decks, then your investor profile could be done very quickly because all the information is right, they're concise. And so that's all, I think. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Edison. Again, this is all information. So you're actually getting a bonus in terms of getting a little bit more coaching on how to complete these company profiles. And they are really, really, really important. We moved the deadline for completing them back a little bit to allow you more time to refine your pitch decks and your company information through this preparation or through the process of preparing your pitch. So, but please do fill out those company profiles. If you have questions, reach out to Edison, Tokes, Tanvir, or myself. We are available to help you put the information about your company together in a way that is conveys the message you want it to, right? Which is of competence and capability. clearly and concisely. Wow, that's a lot of C. Okay, so as there are no other questions right now, note that this presentation, the recording and the actual PowerPoint will be sent over to you shortly. And if you have any other questions, once you receive those, please do feel free to reply in email on the thread, and I'll make sure that to answer your question, and hopefully for everyone else as well, so that if anyone else has that question, it's answered for all. And I think that we are now out of time. So good luck in preparing or refining your pitch decks, and we will reconvene for mock pitches, right? I believe tomorrow or the day after. I'll have to double check the schedule. It is, it has been sent to you in email. Excuse me?
Saturday.
Saturday, thank you. Right? So it is been sent to you as part of the revised schedule in your email. The same email thread that you have for You're Welcome to West Africa Com is also where you'll find the schedule and all of the resources. Okay, so again, if you have any other questions, this is your last opportunity. And no, okay. All right, so with that, I think we can close the session. Good luck, guys, and we will be speaking again soon. Have a great afternoon and evening.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Talks. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
And good luck.
Good luck.